I could have sworn I saw great burning wings. A crown of incandescent light floated just above her flaming hair. She was a burning behemoth, raining fire and brimstone. This is biblical angel of death. She's an angel of death. So next weekend, obviously, is the New York City Marathon.
Indeed.
And we record these 2 weeks behind. Are you coming up, by the way?
Is Jenna running it?
Yes. Her knee is like a little bit hiccupy, but like, yes, she is going to go to the start line and start.
Okay. I haven't decided. So I texted you this morning that my morning is chaotic. That is because this is my second activity of the day. Listeners, it is early in the morning. The Marine Corps Marathon is this weekend in DC. So we just got back from watching the Marine Corps Marathon. So now I'm all like hyped on marathons. I'm like, oh, maybe I should go up to New York.
Yeah.
TBD. We'll see.
Well, regardless, I have 2 friends who are running the marathon. One is Jenna, and then the other is another friend that you have met, and it's his first marathon ever. So we're having people over, and the intent was for it to be like, we kind of live close-ish to the finish line, not that close, but walking distance, and Ree's a good location in that it's kind of far enough away from the crowd that it's not going to be horrible in terms of just crowdedness around our apartment. And so I got asked, is there like a party full or a link or a start time or something to send around? And I was like, oh yeah, sure, quick, let me just make one. And so I make one, and I made it for the day because I figured, okay, we'd watch the pros on TV in the morning, and then we'd go cheer, and then we'd come back with the finishers and hang out and drink and celebrate. And I sent it to the friend who's running, not Jenna doesn't really care whether we have a party or not. She's kind of like, I'm just trying to make it through the race. But this friend, and he was like, I don't think that non-runners consider the marathon an all-day affair. I was thinking like a 3 p.m. like after party.
That's
and
so funny.
Like, so nobody wants to start watching the pros at 9 a.m. He was like, I didn't even know that professionals like ran this event.
That is like, so funny.
Okay. That's a good reality check for me.
I got it and I saw it and I'm like, what the fuck? She's starting this at 3 p.m. The race is going to be like over.
I'm upset about it. I specifically put in the body of the invite, I was like, text me if you want to watch the pros in the morning. Yeah. I will be watching them on TV. So
either way, I'm going to be doing that. The question is, am I doing that from New York or am I doing it from where I live? But we'll see. Yeah. We'll see. I'll keep an eye on train tickets. Like maybe.
Yeah. So lesson learned. Apparently not everybody considers the marathon a full day then. And also apparently not everybody knows that this is a professional race.
Oh my God. It actually is. We're probably losing a ton of listeners here, but like it actually is. We've watched a marathon in person together. It's so fucking wild because it is the flip of most sporting events where no one is watching the pros on the course. Everyone comes out to cheer for their friend, right? So like the actual good runners who are like in the pack and way far ahead of everyone, no one's cheering for them because they're like, quiet. Oh, my friend's not coming for like an hour, you know? It's crazy.
It's actually crazy.
Brutal
life.
Quiet.
You'll watch like one of the fastest people in the world just run by, breathing borderline silently. Like you can hear their breathing. And I'm like, you're at mile 24 and a half of a 26.2 mile race.
4:45 pace.
And everyone's just like, oh, who's that? Woo. I'm like, okay.
Anyway, we love marathons.
It's going to be emotional. It's going to be emotional.
I was crying today. I'm a sports crier. I'm a real runner crier that like
100%.
Oh my God. Especially love the marathon.
Like the ends of sporting events and then the immediate aftermath of the victors.
I loved, actually back to your party full, I loved the picture that you selected because I was you're either going to know what that picture is or you're not. For our listener, it is when Shalane Flanagan won the New York City Marathon and went fuck yeah on national television, which is like
screaming fuck yes.
The best American distance runner moment of the past decade. Oh my God, it's so good.
So good. And the best part of that for this specific event is even if you don't get it, it's still great because it is still like what you want to embody at the end of the marathon. But if you do get it, it's like, like what a moment.
God,
like
I have
her
chills
last
right now.
race. Full
This
body
is-
chills, tears, everything.
I don't know if you remember this conversation. We had a conversation like 5 or 6 years ago.
You and me?
Yeah, you and me. This is obviously before we started this podcast, but we were joking. We were like, should we start a podcast called Sports Crying, where we just watch sports and cry?
Let us know.
Yeah, let us know if you want that to be a side
Now that we're
project.
one step closer to that reality.
Now that we know how to do a podcast. Yeah.
Let us know.
The Empire is born. Anyway, love the
Man.
marathon. Love the marathon.
Love a marathon. And duly noted how the rest of the world feels about them.
And we know none of you care.
So apologies if this was not the most riveting banter topic for you all. No, we'll cut it. We'll make it interesting. It's fine.
My banter topic was going to be a rant about how there are no good adult, non-scary Halloween movies. But this is a better topic, I think.
Tell me more about that.
All right. So, like, I don't like scary movies, as our listeners know. I'm more of a Wikipedia reader of the scary movie. And Derek and I were like, okay, it's like a week before Halloween. Like, I'd really love to watch a Halloween movie, but I don't want something scary. Your options are pretty much like Hocus Pocus, which I've watched 500 times at this point. Practical Magic, which I still haven't watched, but I really want to watch. There's Death Becomes Her, and then there's the Addams Family. And Addams Family 1 and 2 are cinematic masterpieces, in my opinion. But like the rest of them are kind of like, they're okay. So we settled on a movie called Hubie Halloween, which it's an Adam Sandler movie. I don't like current day Adam Sandler. Like 90s Adam Sandler was kind of funny. It was the worst fucking movie I've ever seen. We watched 20 minutes of it and I was just like, I can't even watch this. Like, this is so bad.
That's so interesting because I kind of just I've never delineated children versus adult Halloween movies. Like, I just think of Tim Burton as like Tim Burton, and I'm gonna watch anything by Tim Burton. Period.
That's true. Tim Burton is certainly
spooky season movies to me.
Yeah, Tim Burton is in that. Well, I wanted to watch Sleepy Hollow, but we had also recently watched Sleepy Hollow. My point is there's really only like 20 movies, I think, that fit this bill, and we've watched all of them.
Harry Potter could be spooky enough. I consider that more of a Christmas movie.
Is it a Halloween movie? Oh, no.
But I think you could do both. There's a lot of movies. There's a lot to get through.
You're right. It could be a Halloween movie. Yeah. Anyway, don't watch Hubie Halloween. Don't do it. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So bad.
Halloween Town was fun. Hocus Pocus.
So this is what brought this up. We were walking in downtown when we were still in Rhode Island, and they were doing a screening of Halloween Town, and we didn't know it was happening. But I was like, I want to stay and watch. We had plans, we couldn't stay, but I was like, I just want to watch Halloween. It's so bad. But that is definitively a children's movie. Like, it is not a movie for adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I just like children's Halloween movies.
It turns out for holiday movies, I'm good with kids' movies.
Yeah, maybe that's the case. Maybe that's fine. Or maybe we need to turn A Court of Thorns and Roses into a movie series. Food for thought.
But I don't think that will fit this Halloween.
No, I suppose not. But the world could always use more fantasy.
I have been loving guys, this is my first year in the Romantasy world. Like, truly, I entered this world in January. It's all new to me, right? So, all the, fan art accounts that I follow on Instagram are doing the, Halloween costumes for our favorite Romantasy characters. And I freaking love them. And I posted this the other day, and Ronnie actually DM'd me about it. There was one where Cassian dressed up as Reese, and Nesta was like, I hate you. I don't want to do this. And Caspian whispers in her ear, he's like, don't you want to hate fuck me? And I was like, I love the unhinged energy of this.
Yep.
It was great. It was great. I love it. Keep doing
Excellent.
it. Fan art accounts, keep doing what you're doing. They bring me so much joy.
What you're doing. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Love it. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Ronnie.
Hello. I'm Abby.
And this is Dragons in the Details, where we pick apart your favorite fantasy series over the course of an undetermined number of episodes. We are covering A Court of Thorns and Roses, the series, also known as ACOTAR by Sarah J. Maas. Disclaimer, these episodes will contain spoilers for the entire ACOTAR series, all 5 published books. We will announce any other Maasverse spoilers ahead of time. We keep them to the end. If you're new here, we split our episodes into ACOTAR only, so only the 5 published books in the ACOTAR series, and then we keep Maasverse to the end. If you've been here a while, you know the drill. Maasverse section at the end. Another disclaimer, this podcast is rated R. Don't listen to it with your children. You already heard us talk about Cassian and Nesta. Hate fucking while Cassian is dressed up as Reese. That's kind of par for the course here. All right. Each week we dive into a specific topic in depth. This week we are digging into the tiny ancient one, Amren. We come with receipts. We have quotes to back up any theories so you can follow along if you're skeptical. Announcements. Abby.
Right. Our deep dive music is brought to you by Schwoodley. So they are real artists. They are on Spotify and their name is Schwoodley. You should check them out. Other than that, in general, we've mentioned this before. We'll mention it again, but please rate, comment, subscribe if you like this episode. We are a small podcast, but we are trying to grow. And we actually are growing. We're growing a little bit. We're doing good. So if you like us, if you're new here, tell your friends about us. If you think your friends would like us too. We know there's a lot of group chats out there. There's a lot of book clubs. So, if you're in one of those, feel free to share. The more, the merrier. Anything else?
In that vein, I forgot to announce this last time we recorded, but we had another social media milestone. We hit 10K on TikTok. So, yay. Thanks for being here. Kind of wild that 10,000 people think that our silly little clips and videos are worth watching and showing up on your feed consistently. So thank you. Yay.
Yeah, it is wild, guys. We are very happy that all of you are here and all of you have found us, and we love this little community that we're growing. And once again, I want to shout this out. We put this at the end of the episode, but we do have a Discord. It is Dragons in the Details Pod. That is the name of our server. So if you want to, and it's fairly active. There's people chatting all the time about their theories. We love it. So if you want a place where you can just talk shop all the time and you don't have to wait for us to post something, that's your spot. And we always put a link to it in the show notes too.
Cool. All right. Corrections, omissions, social media shout outs, also known as cosms.
All right. I do have one. All right. So we, in our Cassian episode, talked about the fact that Cassian and Nesta have matching 8-pointed star tattoos. And I said that that's not typical. Usually bargains in this universe are not marked with the same tattoo, which I'm still standing by. However, we did have a listener point out, and she brought a receipt. She had a quote. So I thought this was great. So this is Pooja073. I think Reese and Feyre have the same tattoo from their last bargain. The quote, Reese pulled back, tattooed arms braced on either side of my head. One was covered with his Illyrian markings, the other with the twin tattoo to the one on my arm. The one on my arm's the last bargain we'd made to remain together through all that waited ahead. And that is in A Court of Frost and Starlight, Chapter 5. So yeah, she's totally right. Reese and Feyre do have twin tattoos for their bargain. Cassian and Nesta get twin tattoos for their bargain. I will stand by, though, that is not how this originally started, right? So originally only Feyre had the tattoo for the bargain with Reese. And we know that she gets tattoos for her bargain with Riaxis, and that Reese and Striga also have tattoos, but that those tattoos don't appear to be matching. So I don't know if that is just a decision that Sarah J. Maas made at some point. Oh, these tattoos should also be matching, or if we're supposed to read into it. Could be nothing. Certainly could be nothing.
Yeah. It's interesting because the Reese and Feyre one actually makes more sense in my mind to be the same because they're deciding to do the same thing together.
Right. I kind of agree with that.
Like it makes more sense for there to be asymmetry if somebody owes the other something.
Yeah.
Which obviously isn't the case. So yeah, maybe it's just a little bit, maybe there's not really a pattern for us to be recognizing and we're just looking for something that's not there. Yeah.
Certainly could be. That would fit into our niche.
It's into the niche well. Yep. Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah. Did you have any?
Okay, I have two. One is a shout out on a comment. So we posted a reel/TikTok from our As Real episode about Elaine wielding Truth Teller, killing Hybern, killing the King of Hybern, and just appearing behind him. And a commenter named Amanda commented that Nuala and Ceridwen could have winnowed her. I think this is interesting. I don't necessarily know that Nuala and Ceridwen could have winnowed her. Maybe they could have. But I do think it is interesting that this period of Elaine wielding Truth Teller and also getting closer to Asriel also coincides with her getting closer with half shadow wraiths, right? Did this, and I don't really have a clear perspective on this, but it seems like they got a lot closer after Elaine came into contact with Truth Teller. So maybe they helped her. Maybe there's just a connection to Elaine and shadows that we didn't necessarily appreciate. Maybe it's Asriel related. I don't know, but I think it's a good point. Nuala and Ceridwen definitely are half shadow wraiths and close to Elaine and could have helped. We've talked about there being something between Truth Teller and shadows already. Could there be something between Truth Teller, shadows, and shadow beings?
Yeah, it's interesting. We got the same comment on Instagram. I wonder if it was the same Same. Were they at the battle?
So they were at the camp, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong on that, but just going off of pure memory, I thought that they were at the camp and still like helping them at the camp.
Could be. I don't remember.
I don't know.
It's possible, but we haven't really, we've seen them walk through walls, obviously, but we haven't seen them winnow, as far as I know. But yeah, yes, all of the shadowy things for Elaine seem to be happening around the same time, which it's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then one shout out so I've shouted out accounts before on TikTok that I thought were interesting. I want to shout out another one. I love this creator. She comments on a lot of our stuff. I totally agree with everything that I see of hers. I actively do not watch her videos because she covers the exact same content as us. It's like Maasverse theories. And I'm like, I do not want to subconsciously absorb your theories, but I want to shout her out because I think she's awesome and deserves like so much more attention than she's getting. Let me find her handle because her name is Morgan, but I want to actually get her handle. Sorry. So her handle on TikTok is Three-Faced Goddess, and her bio honestly illustrates it. It's Maasverse crash out. Like that is what she does, and she makes content about the Maasverse every single day. It's so great. It's so in-depth. I'm obsessed with it. And she comments on so much of our stuff, like agreeing with it or pointing out really like important points, and has asked for the title of podcast auntie at this point, which I think is hilarious. And we don't have one of those, so sure.
You got it, Morgan.
So thank you, Morgan, for all of your comments and feedback, and love your content. Currently not trying to consume too much of it because don't want to subconsciously take any of your ideas inappropriately, but you're great. So thank you.
Yeah. Sounds like if you like us, you'll like her. So
if you like us, you'll like her. Yeah, that's what I think. All right. Anything else? Okay. Fun question this week. Choose your fighter, Amren or Moore. I know what you're going to ask. This is Amren
wasn't even going to ask it. I just assumed.
Pre-Cauldron.
Amren. Again, I didn't prepare anything for this, but and we talked about this with our Moore episode, right? We have not really seen the power out of Moore that is alluded to, so I don't know what it looks like, but like, is she a fucking angel of death sweeping over the army of Hybern? Because if she's not, I'm not picking her.
Yeah, I agree.
Amren.
I do think in the question I had intended it to be Amren bound to her mortal form, but like we have unfortunately seen her in her whatever her raw form is, which yes, literally kills everyone that she even passes. So something very nefarious, not nefarious. Well, I don't want to get into
deadly.
that.
Something
deadly, lethal, if you will.
Yeah, I agree.
Lurks under her skin. So yeah. And the fact that I think Reese has only questioned her like a couple times ever, I'm not crossing her. So if I'm picking a fighter, it's probably her. However, who's less likely to backstab? Probably more.
Yeah. I was like,
so
I had
if
to
I'm
like
choosing my fighter.
wrap my round about that. Oh, so you wouldn't pick Amren because you think Amren would betray you or deceive you in some way?
Maybe. I'm still picking Amren, to be clear. But like, am I trusting Amren? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll get into that.
All right, shall we deep dive?
We shall. All right, Ronnie. What are Amren's powers?
All right. We've got a bit of a list here, but there is also just kind of this overarching immortality, death, glowy, dangerous shit living behind her eyes. So like because when we were talking about Nesta's powers, I feel like we didn't lead with that. I'm going to lead with this. Like Amren's got something very deep, very dark, very big happening within her that I don't think we fully understand, but we're going to talk about what it looks like, what it presents as, what it does. But first I'm going to talk through, I think, everything that we've observed, and I may have missed some things because there's a lot of books, which is fine. So formerly, she had immortality, right? At least we're told. Like immortality in that, you know, Fae are, yes, immortal, but like she was immortal even compared to Fae. She had this mysterious glowing power behind her eyes. She had it really frequently before the events of War, but it actually does happen again after the events of the Cauldron, specifically when they're talking about the Dread Trove. So I don't think everything within her is gone. Her eyes still glow. So something's there. She is able to make people hallucinate, feel and see things that are not actually there or happening. So she makes people who are attacking Valaris feel like they are dying effectively on land or feel like they are, seeing things that they're not actually seeing. And so they end up just like crashing. She's able to heal to some extent. He says she's not actually a real healer, but she's able to like start healing Cassian's wings in the end of A Court of Mist and Fury. Bless you. Bless you 3 times.
Sorry.
She's able to sense wards, adapt wards, and destroy wards. So just general warding of things. When they steal the books, she's like looking for them. She can't find them. She can destroy the wards around Briaxis. There's a bunch of other times. She can adapt the wards around Valaris when bad shit happens in Valaris. And she can create wards as well. So just general warding things. She made herself mortal and bound herself to a body, whatever the fuck that means. She made her own body and was able to execute whatever spell was required to bind her own being to that body. And that is how she escaped the prison. And then at the Battle of Hybern, or the final Battle of Hybern, I should say, battle against Hybern, when she tricks Feyre into helping her unbind herself from that mortal form. We see kind of her true form, and this is not the question about what is Amren, so I'm not going to describe it in detail, but we see her take her true form so that she can fight on behalf of Prythian against Hybern, and she basically is just death. Like, she can just sweep over people and, quote, inhale the life out of them. So she has this power that seems quite a bit like death. She doesn't even really have to touch anybody to execute it. She just is there, and then they are dead. And then she just has this unknown otherworldly power. An example of it, when they are stealing the Book of Breathings, she puts her palm out against a door, is burning the door. She has elemental power, I guess is the way that you would describe it. And swirls and whirls like radiate out of it. So these like tattoo whirls that we see on people's bodies, like that is her magic somehow? Question mark? So
Could be
she has this
could be
otherworldly
different.
power. She has this death power. She has basic elemental power in seemingly every sense. She's able to heal. She's immortal. I assume she has mind work because she's able to make people hallucinate. She's seemingly all powerful. What did I miss?
Yeah. So there's some really, I want to talk about the Book of Breathing scene is totally fucking crazy because we see Amren do things that she has never done before and that we are kind of told she doesn't have the ability to do, right? So we're specifically told, like Nesta, Amren did not possess like Nesta, Amren did not possess court-specific magic related to the High Fae. It didn't make her influence in this court any less mighty. So we know that Feyre has control over water because she has Tarkin's court-specific magic. We're told Amren doesn't have that, but Amren holds her palm out and water parts for her, right? Which I kind of didn't catch the first time I read it. It's pretty wild. It's a little, I'll definitely say it's a little confusing. I want to talk about the mind work because, like, once again, we are getting mind work, right? So, like, and the quote for that is, and this is again when the soldiers attack Valaris, with her dark power, she had spun illusions straight into the soldiers' minds. They believed they had fallen into the Sidra and were drowning. They believed they were flying 1,000 feet above and had dived fast and swift for the city, only to find the street mere feet away and the crunch of their skulls. The crueler ones, the wickedest ones, she had unleashed their own nightmares upon them until they died from terror, their hearts giving out. Very Daemati. Very Daemati. Yeah. And we're never told she's a Daemati, right? But like, this is literally what Rhys says, like, Daemati can do, right? Daemati can like, and he says he does this too, to both the Picts in a bad way and to Claire in like a good way, right? Like kind of spinning this illusion, spinning this reality for them, making them believe that they are somewhere, something that they are not. Again, not told she's a Daemati, but that we're told she has that power. And then when she's training Nesta to go into the Hewn City, we get like other clues that she has this mind power. So what she says is, hold on. Yeah. So Feyre walks in on Nesta and Amren having basically a staring contest. And she's like, what's going on here? And the quote is, Amren turned her head to me with exaggerated slowness, her chin-length, razor-straight hair shifting with the movement. Rhys has his own method of training you. I have mine. Her white teeth flash with every word. We visit the Court of Nightmares tomorrow night. She needs some basic training before we do. Like what? Amren sighed at the ceiling, shielding herself from prying minds and powers. So she's teaching Nesta how to shield with a prying mind, right? She is prying into Nesta's mind. Like, how is she doing that? And then later she says, you always need to protect your vital organs. Like, what is this? This is like not anything we've seen before, right? Yeah. So she has all that. Just some other notes about her and Reese, I think. Reese says that she taught him how to control his powers, right? So the quote for that is, it's when he's like kind of like letting off some of his magic and Feyre's questioning about him about it. She says, it seems like you have a great deal of magic constantly in use at once. A shrug. It helps me work off the strain of my power. The magic needs release, draining, or else it'll build up and drive me insane. Or so I was warned. I can feel it though, the pull of it, if I go too long without releasing it. That's horrible. Another shrug. Everything has its cost, Feyre. If the price of being strong enough to shield my people is that I have to struggle with that same power, then I don't mind. Amren taught me enough about controlling it, enough that I owe a great deal to her, including the current shield around my city while we're here. So again, we're told that Amren like doesn't have this Fey magic, but then she's teaching Reese how to control his magic. So like something kind of doesn't add up there, I think.
Yeah. I think it's fair. I mean, we're not told that she's Daemati. We're not told that she has Fey power, but we are told that she is the only thing of her kind.
Yeah.
We are not told that she doesn't have power. We're not really told really anything about her power. Like, we're not told Amren doesn't have X. Amren isn't Y. We're just told, like, Amren is something else. Like, there is no other kind like her. And so in that sense, she is a total enigma. But I think it is important that she is the only person who's able to train Reese and that she's Reese's second for whatever reason.
Totally agree. And like what she can do, it kind of seems to be like whatever is needed
Whatever
at
she
the
wants.
time.
Whatever she wants. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether it would be fair to call her like, because a Daemati seems like it's a Fey skill. So maybe that's their delineator. I don't know.
I don't know.
She's
I'm not
certainly not Fey.
saying she's certainly not Fey. I'm not saying right. So I'm not had the argument with Tamlin. I'm not saying she's Daemati here. I don't even know what that word means anymore, if we're being honest. But like, she clearly has some kind of mental ability.
Yeah,
where she can make people see things.
Yeah,
she can do mind work. Yeah, and like she taught Reese how to control his own power. So why is it that Amren was the one who taught him to control his powers when there's so many Fae around him? Why did he have to go to Amren to kind of do that? You know, that's the question that raises for me. I don't have an answer.
Yeah. She kind of plays like a hand of the king type figure, I feel like, in their relationship.
And then the only other thing I would mention here, we don't have to get too deep into it. She is made, right? But she is not connected to the cauldron the way that Nesta is. And we know that because the quote is basically when Feyre is like, the king of Hybern is going to try to bring down or Reese is like, the king of Hybern is going to try to bring down the wall. Amren is like, I think I could train Nesta to prevent that and to patch up the holes in the wall and kind of like make that okay. Like, I think I can train Nesta. I can't do it myself, even though I am made. And I think that question is even asked at one point that Amren's like, yes, I am made, but I don't have the connections to the cauldron that you do. So again, that kind of delineation between different made people and like what that really means.
Yeah. And she needs Feyre and she thinks she needs Nesta as well to help her manipulate the cauldron and unbind herself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. That is a great point. Yeah.
So she can't do anything because she couldn't unbind herself.
She can't do anything without that connection to the cauldron. Yeah. She needs Feyre to be the conduit. Interesting. Cool. Okay. All right. Anything else on Amren's powers?
No. I think we're good. Okay. Abby, where did Amren come from?
All right. I don't have a hard and fast answer for this one, but I think it's worth talking about the quotes that we do have about this, right? So, number one, she came from somewhere with humans, which I think is very interesting, right? So now we know that humans exist on multiple different worlds within this universe, within this reality. So the quote for that is, I watched them for so many eons, humans. In my world, there were humans too. And I watched them love and hate, wage senseless war, and find precious peace. Watched them build lives, build worlds. I was never allowed such things. I had not been designed that way, had not been ordered to do so. So I watched, and the day I came here, it was the first selfish thing I had done. Blah, blah, blah. So basically somewhere with humans, right? Which is interesting to me. She says it's also somewhere where the blood tasted pure and richer. We know Amren drinks blood before she kind of fully goes into her Fae form, right? So Feyre is bringing Amren blood to her apartment as like a thank you or a gift. And she asks Amren what her favorite type of blood is. And Amren says, lamb has always been my favorite, horrible as it is. Not human. She made a face, watery and often tastes like what they last ate. And since most humans have piss poor palates, it's too much of a gamble. But lamb, I'll take goat too. The blood's purer, richer. Reminds me of another time and place. So that's Mist and Fury, chapter 39. This kind of reminded me of the Lanthus line about magic flowing untethered again. So the quote for that is, we shall rebuild, and this is when Lanthus is talking to Nesta in the prison. We shall rebuild to what we were before the golden legions of the Fae cast off their chains and overthrew us. We shall resurrect the wild hunt and ride rampant through the night. We shall build palaces of ice and flame, palaces of darkness and night. Magic shall flow untethered again. So we get this kind of consistent imagery throughout this series that like things are not what they used to be in Prythian. Like magic has kind of declined. Whether or not this blood is from here or from somewhere else, it's like the blood here is not as good as the blood was elsewhere. Like we get this idea that like maybe something is like leeching off the land and we don't really know what that is. I don't have an answer there, but just kind of like we're continuing to see this pattern with Amren. We also know that like she appears from a rip in the sky. So basically the quote we get for that is, I was perfect according to some. I did not regret, did not mourn, and pain. I did not experience it. And yet I wound up here because I was not quite like the others. Even as what I was different. Too curious, too questioning. The day the rip appeared in the sky, it was curiosity that drove me. My brothers and sisters fled. Upon the orders of our ruler, we had just laid waste to twin cities, smote them wholly into rubble on the plain. And yet they fled from that rip in the world. But I wanted to look. I was not built or bred to feel such selfish things as want. I'd seen what happened to those of my kind who strayed, who learned to place their needs first, who developed feeling. But I went through the tear in the sky, and here I am. Couple interesting things here. So she says she came through a rip in the world, right? Again, this is not answering the question. These are just interesting patterns I found. We have two other times where a rip in the world is used, that phrase, and we think it's about winnowing, but it is about Rhys and it is about Eris. So the first time that Rhys winnows, it is described as a rip in the world. And the quote is, and this is literally in the Spring Court, right? All the way back in book 1. Rhysand turned to Tamlin, unfazed by the High Lord's proximity. Well, this was entertaining. The most fun I've had in ages, actually. I'll look forward to seeing you three under the mountain. I'll give Amarantha your regards. Then Rhysand vanished into nothing, as if he'd stepped through a rip in the world, leaving us alone in horrible, trembling silence. So, like, what Amren went through was a rip in the world, but then we're also calling winnowing here a rip in the world. Eris appears out of a rip in the world at the start of the Battle of Hybern. So the quote for that is, out of a rip in the world, Eris appeared atop our knoll, clad head to toe in silver armor, a red cape spilling from his shoulders. Rhys snarled a warning, too far gone in his power to bother controlling himself. We don't know where Eris came from.
Yeah.
Where was Eris before this battle?
Yeah.
With Rhys, we know he was like going back to under the mountain, presumably. But like, why use a rip in the world for like all three of these things when we know Amren was coming from like a different planet entirely or a different something entirely?
Yeah. Interesting.
I don't know. We have like maybe one clue with the bone carver. So we know the bone carver also came from somewhere else. We are told he arrived tens of thousands of years before Amren, but the Amren timeline is really sketchy, and I think we'll probably get into that in our Maasverse section.
Yeah.
We're told he arrived tens of thousands of years before Amren, also fell into this world, and that his world is now nothing but dust drifting across a plain. When he is talking to Feyre, him and Feyre have been talking about Amren. And then at a certain point, they start talking about his siblings. But before they start talking about his siblings, he says where we came from, right? So they were talking about him and Amren. He says where we came from. I don't know if that means him and Amren came from the same place or if he has started talking about his siblings now. Yeah. But he doesn't say where I came from. He says where we came from.
Well, I think it's worth noting, and again, this could totally just be because of how long Amren has been around, but like she knows all these people. And by people, I mean death gods.
Death gods.
Like she knows the Bone Carver, she knows Striga, she knows Briaxis, she knows Koschei, she knows Lanthus. Like she is usually the person who's telling us their names. So I don't think it's unreasonable to think that it's possible they met before
Somewhere else.
Prithian.
Yeah.
I don't think it's unreasonable. I don't think it's like they have to have had a relationship before Prithian. At least she and the Bone Carver were in the prison together at some point. So there's that. But
Briaxis is a great question. Like, why would Amren know Briaxis' name?
Why does Amren know Briaxis when, like...
And she's the only one.
She's the only one who knows his name.
Yeah. I don't know. All right. So the only other thing I have here is that Gwyn tells us we have 11 to 26 worlds we're dealing with here. Somewhere in that vicinity, right? So the reminder for that, I don't have the exact quote, but basically she says Meryl is researching the possibility of other worlds. Some people think there are 11. Some people think that there are 26. I think Amren and the Bone Carver confirm that, right? Like they definitely came from other worlds. So like, I don't know if we're dealing with 11 or 26, but like they came from somewhere else. And we know that we are told that the harp can potentially open doors to other worlds, right? So the quote for that is, and this is in Silver Flames, the harp can open any door, physical or otherwise, some say between worlds. So we know that a rip appeared in the sky, but we don't know how or why, right? So is it possible that the harp was used to create kind of a portal between Prithian and wherever Amren came from? And that's where Amren came from. Like, I know she says her father did it, but there's kind of some weirdness about that, which we'll get into maybe in the next question, maybe in Maasverse. And if that's the case, does that mean that the opposite happened too, and that some beings from Prithian went into her world too? I don't know. I'm just speculating. This is probably going to be a big speculation episode, guys. We don't actually know that much about Amren.
Yeah, we don't know that much. Yeah. I tried to get to like some options for answers. So I think the biggest challenge with respect to this question is we have very little information from Amren directly. Like a lot of information that we have about this question is from Rhys about what he's gleaned or like what he's assuming or what conclusions he's drawing, or he sent Azrael to go look into this, and not a lot from Amren's mouth. So Rhys, when Feyre asks where did Amren come from, talks about the forming with a capital F, which is the beginning of the world. I think you talked about this. So he says creatures from other worlds could walk through one of those rips and enter another world, but the rips were closing at will, and so creatures could become trapped. And so Feyre kind of assumes that this is what happens to Amren and asks, like, what do you think she is? He says she's the only one of her kind. There's no records of others ever having existed like Amren. And so in that way, it seems like he's saying she's one of one. And so like maybe she's not like Briaxis and the Bone Carver and Lanthus and Koschei and like all of these other beings. But then Amren, you read this quote too, when she reveals how she escaped the prison, recounts her arrival on Prithian and says she went through that tear in the sky. But she also says she had a ruler, right? And this ruler was like a conqueror ruler. So she says, upon the orders of our ruler, we had just laid waste to twin cities, smote them wholly into rubble on the plain, and yet they fled from that rip in the world. She's talking about her brothers and sisters. And so she's like part of some group with brothers and sisters. She also has a father, mentions a father with a capital F. So it's feeling very angelic, biblical, godlike.
Sure is.
But not in the traditional sense, because we're hearing a lot of battle, conquering, destroying cities. So she's in like a tough situation. She's described herself as unfeeling, immortal, perfect, right? So she is describing herself as angelic and serving some type of ruler, god type thing, but not like God, capital G God, probably, because at least not in the traditional sense, because this seems to be a not so good God, maybe.
Well, I got more into this in the next question, but like, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll talk about like what she is, but I'm trying to tie it into like where could you be from? Rhys has said, considering the origins of Prithian, that they were created by a race called the Daglan, who were near gods. So that quote is, the Fae were not the first masters of this world. According to our oldest legends, most now forgotten, we were created by beings who were near gods and monsters, the Daglan. They ruled for millennia and they enslaved us and the humans. They were petty and cruel and drank the magic of the land like wine. And Amren literally comes up when Rhys is explaining this. And he explains that Amren arrived like before Fion's rule, so during the Daglan rule, or maybe at the time of their arrival. And Sarah J. Maas, allegedly, apparently, I have a screenshot of a transcript, has gone on record saying her readers should think of Amren as an Old Testament style angel assassin who got tired of doing a god's dirty work. So could she be from like the Daglin's homeworld? Rhys is talking about the forming when he mentions where Amren is from. Amren comes up when Rhys is talking about the Daglin creating the Fae and being the first masters of the world. Amren maybe arrived at the same time as them or during their rule. Like, could she have come from that world? In that case, like, I'm questioning what role she played with them or in that world when she came over, because it seemed like she was leaving a situation that she didn't want to be a part of. And so, like, if those people were rulers in that world and they came into this one, then like that's not good for Amren. So like that can't have been good during their rule while she was here.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Like, where did she come from? Maybe there. I, for what it's worth, also think it's totally plausible to your point that we have not seen where she's from. There are 26 worlds alluded to in this series. So maybe we just have no idea, but that is the only world that we have been like potentially told could even exist, is like this like pre-world of the Daglin.
Well, just to add on to that a little more with the Twin Cities thing. And again, we have our next question is, what is Amren? So I think we'll get into this a lot more in the next question, but just to talk it through, Twin Cities, like we have Sodom and Gomorrah in our Bible, right? In our Old Testament, Sodom and Gomorrah, like huge allusions to Sodom and Gomorrah with laying waste to Twin Cities, right? So is it Earth? Is it our world? Like, is that what this is? Like, is she a true fire and brimstone, which are words she uses, Old Testament angel? And is she from our world? I don't know. It'd be fun. And we know the Lashon HaKodesh that the Book of Breathings is written in is actually biblical Hebrew.
It is.
So like, we're getting allusions to our world, which would be like such a fun twist if she put that in there. I don't know. So maybe Earth.
Maybe Earth.
Maybe Earth. I don't know. That'd be fun. All right. Next question, which maybe we should have done before this question now that I think about it, but it's okay.
It's fine.
All right, Ronnie, what is Amren?
Okay. So we kind of talked a little bit.
Cat's out of the bag.
But cat's out of the bag. But I'll talk about some of her characteristics, and then we'll talk about why she might be an Old Testament style angel. Amren, before the events at the end of Act War, we'll talk about first, then we can talk about maybe what we think happened to her following that. So she drinks blood as her primary form of sustenance, doesn't really do food. While Amren's out hunting, the citizens of Valaris leave blood out as an offering to basically ask Amren to like pass over their house, which
they paint their doorways with lamb's blood. Which is
word
for word.
Which is Passover.
Old Testament.
I mean, Amren does drink blood, so it's a little bit more about Amren than just, it's Passover.
No, it's just Passover.
We've already talked about the fact that Fae are mortal compared to what she was. And when she's describing herself, she describes herself before she came to Prythian and bound herself into this mortal form as perfect. She did not regret. She did not mourn. She did not experience pain. She basically didn't feel. She had what she called burning grace. She definitely had wings. We find that in her form when she is released from her mortal form, when she comes out of the cauldron, she has these dark wings. And when asked by Nesta what she actually was, Amren says, a messenger and soldier assassin for a wrathful god who ruled a young world. Her name was not Amren in this old life. She chose Amren for a reason, but she doesn't reveal it, and she says it was a long story. And Amren, as an aside, means rest or peace. So it seems like potentially she has come to Prythian and found this rest or peace that perhaps she did not find in her old world.
Well, and again, I've found that it was Hebrew roots. I mean, it's hard to know, but like Hebrew. Yeah, Hebrew. Get it back to Hebrew. Yeah.
We're getting a lot of notes of Hebrew. She had a father, and her father has a capital F. Again, very biblical. God the Father has a capital F. She says to Nesta, we are the same, you and I, not in flesh, not in the thing that prowls beneath our skin and bones, but I see the kernel, girl. You did not fit the mold they shoved you into. So she's describing all of these traits, that she was perfect, she didn't regret, she didn't mourn. She has all of these kind of angelic biblical qualities, but she is pointing out that she had some flaw, like some form of like original, maybe not original, maybe just sin that didn't quite fit with the mold that she was being shoved into. She felt something she wanted, I think was the exact quote.
You just gave me a light bulb moment. I'm excited.
Okay. Do you want to interrupt or should I keep going?
Keep going.
She didn't fit. She wanted, she was curious. And so she is pointing out that she and Nesta both had this kind of qualm. And when Feyre unbinds her, Amren literally broke the cauldron. And I think this is important because the cauldron could not contain Amren's being.
Yeah.
It fractured under her, right? So she explodes in light and fire, roaring in victory and rage and pain. Feyre says, I could have sworn I saw great burning wings, each feather a simmering ember spread wide. Could have sworn a crown of incandescent light floated just above her flaming hair. She was a burning behemoth, raining fire and brimstone. So like you said, like this is biblical angel of death.
She's an angel.
She's an angel of death. She's an angel of death. And so, just to double down on this, right? Sarah J. Maas has gone on record. I have read, I will disclaim, but I read a transcript that Sarah J. Maas said, okay, so Amren is basically an Old Testament angel. Not one of those angels with the pretty white wings. Hers are more like wings of raging fire. Think the angel of death, that sort of angel. Essentially, she is an angel assassin that got tired of doing a god's dirty work and became curious about what else was out there. The author said so. The author said so. Soldiers literally died as she passed. She inhales the life out of them. Her own life sputters out. And then, of course, her life sputters out, but Rhys reaches out a hand and she comes back. I will say, I think we maybe went into this episode questioning her relationship to death gods. I wrote in my notes here, I don't think Amren was a death god.
No, I don't think she's a death god. I think she is a death angel.
I think she's something else more greater, actually, than death gods. Although it's interesting, she shudders at the thought of Lanthus, which is also why I don't think she's a death god.
After she's Fae, right?
After
she yields. Yeah. So I have everything you have. The only thing I would add, so I would add two things, and you actually just triggered something for me, which is kind of wild, and I have no notes for it, but we'll just fucking go off the cuff, whatever. So specifically with the angel of death, the lamb's blood being painted over the doorway in the biblical story was to prevent the angel of death from taking their firstborn sons, right? So yes, 100%, not just an angel. She's literally like an angel of death. So just more confirmation there. She says, and I don't think you read this, but I think it's important. You read the first part of this, but you didn't read the second part of this. So I yielded my grace, my perfect immortality. I knew that once I did, I would feel pain and regret. I would burn with it. I would fall, right? So fallen, I mean, it's definitely falling like an angel falls, right? We get a lot of serpent snake imagery with Amren. There's a lot of times I didn't write them down because I didn't think I had a theory for it. Now I kind of have a theory for it, actually. Oh, I don't like the way you're smiling. Am I ruining something?
I think you're going towards my precog, but it's okay. It's fun.
Okay. All right. Like falling angel is Lucifer, right? That he is like kind of the first one. He is the first angel who fell. Like he is kind of the prototype archetype for this. Obviously in the Garden of Eden, he plays the role of a snake, and Amren is often like she slithers. She has a serpentine smile. There's all this snake imagery about Amren. Like is Amren playing the role of the snake here? Yeah. Is Amren actually like, is Prythian some kind of Eden? Is Amren going to corrupt them somehow? I don't know. There's a lot of sketchy shit with Amren that I'm sure we'll get into in Maasverse, but like, is that how this comes full circle? And she might not even be nefarious. It might just be, you know what? I'm going to stop there because I don't want to ruin your precog corner. I'm just going to point out we have a devil imagery and we have a snake imagery.
No, I think it's fine because this is the last question of the ACOTAR only section, and I have two things, and we'll get more into it in Maasverse, that I think could indicate that Amren is a Lucifer figure within Prythian. The first, I think, is obvious, and that is the point at which Amren is kind of pushing Rhys to become High King. So that quote is, so the context is Nesta accidentally creates a new trove, and Cassian, Azriel, and Rhys are all like, ooh, new trove, and Amren is like, don't you boys fucking touch it. And she leaves the room, and they're like, we're gonna touch it. And she comes back, and she basically, the quote is, with these 3 blades, you could make yourself High King. The words clang through the room. Cassian slowly blinked. Rhys said tightly, I don't wish to be High King. I only wish to be here with my mate and my people. Amren countered, all 7 courts united under one ruler would give us far better odds of survival in any upcoming conflict. No bickering and politicking required to dispatch our armies. Malcontents like Baron would have no ability to threaten our plans by allying with our enemies. So, 2 thoughts here. One, could Amren know something? Because she seems to be alluding to a much bigger conflict when we seem to have just won a pretty big war. Yeah, we've got Koshchei out there, but doesn't...
He's just one little death god.
And he's like trapped in a lake. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
2, like this is a pretty clear like poke prod towards corruption, right? Like, ooh, Rhys, you want to be High King? Like a temptress type of a snake situation, a snake in the Garden of Eden. The second one is a little bit sneakier, but I think it's interesting. So you talked in the last episode, I think it was Belm's Cosm.
Yeah.
About the bargain with Bryaxis being potentially kind of like sketchy. And we won't talk too much about it here because I think it's really for the next section. But I wanted to point out that, so for context, right, the bargain with Bryaxis was for sunlight, moonlight, and the stars. Amren is the one who says a window. She is the one who says it's a window. Like that's what it is. She is the one who convinces Feyre that it's something pretty simple, pushes her into this bargain with Bryaxis. So the quote of that bargain is, this is Amren. She said, her voice as young and old as the creatures. We will offer you freedom from this place in exchange for it. A bargain, a simple, powerful magic, as great as any the book could muster. This is my home. That's Bryaxis. I considered. Then what is it you want in exchange? Silence. Bryaxis says, sunlight and moonlight, the stars. I opened my mouth to say I wasn't entirely sure that even as High Lady of the Night Court I could promise such things, but Amren stepped on my foot and murmured, a window high above. So, like, what did we just promise Bryaxis? And why did Amren convince us to promise that to Bryaxis?
Yeah.
The stars are kind of Rhys's whole thing. So I think Amren could be a Lucifer figure. Yeah. Yep.
I'm debating what to say here. I believe there is a moment, we can cut this if I'm wrong, where Nesta's swords, Ataraxia is described as glowing with moonlight. And I think there is other moon imagery that we get with Nesta as well. So we have Rhys as stars and we have Nesta as moonlight, right? So like, are there threads being woven here that are bigger?
Helion's sunlight.
We have Helion's sunlight.
Are we giving Bryaxis like Prithian?
Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Amren's behavior is really sketchy in that scene. Why is she stepping on Feyre's foot?
I don't know. All right. Anything else on what is Amren?
Truly so many notes that I crossed out because I was like, no, they're not. I don't want to talk about this right now. The only note I'd add on Amren potentially being more nefarious than we have been led to believe up to this point in time is that Nuala and Saradwin don't like to be around her. They're scared of her, right? So they like leave the room when she comes in. At one point, Feyre says someone like Nuala drew the short end of the stick and had to attend to Amren that day or something. So like they are characters who are wreathed in shadows. And we've talked about, we'll talk about this too. We've talked about how Azriel's shadows kind of potentially tell him how the world really is. And they do not like Amren. There are also 2 instances where it seems like Azriel does not fully trust Amren. Let me see if I wrote them down.
One of them is definitely when they're talking about Nesta's trove and Amren says, do not tell this to Nesta. And Azriel is like, what?
Yeah, that's one. And the other one is when Amren gets really mad because she realizes they went to talk to the bone carver without her or without telling her. And Azriel literally turns into shadows and sneaks behind her. And Amren says, like, call off your dog. Like he's about to attack her basically because he thinks that Rhys is in danger and Feyre is in danger. So he's about to attack her. Let me just see real quick. Oh, and then there's a moment. This is kind of at the beginning where it literally says Azriel marks Amren. So the quote is, they're talking about Jurian being resurrected. The quote is, Jurian, the ancient warrior whose soul Amarantha had imprisoned within that hideous ring as punishment for killing his sister. The ring that contained his eye. Bullshit, Cassian spat. There's no way to do that. Amren had gone still, and it was she whom Azriel was observing, marking. Right? So we have these shadow-adjacent creatures with Nuala and Saradwin and Azriel, and all of them are a little skittish, are a little kind of distrusting of Amren, right? And we talked about at great length in the Azriel episode about his shadows and what they tell him and how they kind of feed him secrets. So like, I think we're getting some subtle clues here that maybe Amren is not as trustworthy as we have been led to believe. But they're tiny. They're tiny. And obviously Amren up to this point has been a really huge team player and like a huge help and everything.
Yeah. And I think it's worth pointing out, right? Like these moments, they exist and they're enough to give us pause, and they're in direct conflict with the fact that she seems to have given up everything for her friends in Prithian. So It's all very confusing. Like she gave up her life effectively to try and take out Hybern and chose to come back and now has this like relationship with Varian. So like, what is going on?
Yeah, I'm not sold on it. I'm not sold on it. I'm just saying and I think we're on the same page here, right? Like neither one of us is here like planting our flag that like Amren can't be trusted, but there are tiny clues that we are potentially getting, but that does not outweigh her actions thus far, which have been on the side of our friends. I'm not going to say the side of the good because people get upset about that, but like on the side of our friends, certainly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
Cool.
Okay. All right. It is time for our Maasverse section. So if you have not read Crescent City and Throne of Glass in their entirety, all 11 books, you will be spoiled. Crescent City and Throne of Glass.
Yeah. I was like, there's 16 books, but you're not including ACOTAR,
Yeah. So we are going to start talking about spoilers from ACOTAR, Crescent City, Throne of Glass after I finish this sentence. So if you do not want to be spoiled, you should leave now. We love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
All right. Welcome to the Maasverse section. This is where it gets fun. Although honestly, that ACOTAR only section was more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, there is actually a lot about Amren. We don't have to talk about the Asteri part of it all, and you can still get pretty far, but you can't like get to the truth, I think, is the thing of it. Yeah.
Well, I also do think, to be fair, there's still an open question on, and we have not talked about this in real life at all, but like, is Sarah J. Maas going the route of the Asteri are related to these, like this biblical god, or is Sarah J. Maas making one of these 26 realms like Earth and like our god?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I have no idea. So you could always take that path of the theories in ACOTAR only. Obviously, like then we get into is this going to become a banned book situation? But it kind of already is, so whatever. Okay, all right. Corrections, omissions, social media shoutouts, Maasverse edition, also known as Cosms. Do you have any?
Big one. And I don't think we're going to get fully into it now, but I did want to bring it up because it is technically an omission, and I do think we'll talk about it more in our Reese episode. So I'm just going to bring it up now and we can leave it.
Okay.
In our Asriel episode, we forgot about some pretty important shadow singers in the Maasverse, and that is Helena and Celine. Helena and Celine are shadow singers, which is kind of fucking wild. So the quote for that is, "My mother eventually trusted only Helena and myself to seek the truth. She knew we could be of great use to her because we bore the shadows as well as starlight." And then we cut to Bryce's POV. This is when she's doing the video. "Helena and Celine crept through the dimness of a mighty crystal palace down a winding crystal staircase. That's the Asteri palace," Bryce whispered to Asriel and Nesta, "in the Eternal City." Back to Celine. "We spent a month hidden in the enemy's stronghold, no more than shadows ourselves." Definitely how Asriel uses shadows, as far as I'm concerned. We've talked about Annalius being the source of the shadow wielding in Prithian, but like perhaps like there are still two ways that this could have happened as far as I'm concerned, right? Because they are presumably Fion's daughters, and Thea does not have the shadow power. It starts with Celine and Helena, right? So either Fion was Valg / Prince of Hell. We think they're the same at this point. Either Fion was Valg, or we've talked about how Thea's pregnancy was really weird, right? So she didn't get pregnant until later in life, and then she had 2 daughters very quickly. What if it was a Hunt Athalar situation? Like, what if the Princes of Hell got involved at that point and like provided the genetic material, basically? I don't know. We do not have time to dive into this theory in this episode, but I thought that was a pretty big omission, and we're probably going to have to talk about it in our Reese episode.
And that whole thing, like something doesn't sit right with me because Thea and Adis were mates.
But they met after.
According to Celine's recountants, they met and were mated like well after Celine and Helena were born. But this is Celine's recountants.
Totally true. Totally fucking true.
So
could
like
be a lot.
That is a far more plausible, like if it's Adis's involvement, that makes way more sense to me, obviously, because like duh. But to your point, like he is introduced much later. But Selene says, I know almost nothing about the story of how they came to be mates and like how that
Yes.
transpired.
Yes.
So she doesn't really know like when it started and when it like how it came to fruition. So it could still be hell. Yeah, but good
Could
point.
still be hell. I have no idea. I am starting to wonder if this is just crazy and none of this actually makes sense. But like,
Yeah.
I was reading Crescent City and I was like, oh, fuck, this is a big one.
Yeah. I did, as part of prep for this, which was honestly, it ended up being kind of a waste of time. I did like a full step-by-step, like easy reading summary of the story that Selene told. And I was just like,
It's
like, does all of this work?
I don't know.
Yeah. And in that vein, I also have a cosm. And I think if you're in our Discord, you know that this is going to be a cosm. So one of our Discord users, Emma, this is very relevant to our Amren episode, points out in like basically to build a headline here, points out that someone is lying about the timelines regarding the prison Prythian split and the Fae exodus to Midgard. And most of what we learn about in ACOTAR is related to Amren's imprisonment, because that's how we learn about like the things related to the prison. So I will read what Emma wrote, and then I will respond to what she wrote with kind of my perspective, and then I'm happy to hear yours. So Emma says, based on what we find out about the prison in Akamath, Akawar, A Court of Silver Flames, and House of Flame and Shadow, at least one important player is lying about key timelines regarding the prison, the split of Prythian, and the Fae exodus to Midgard. According to Amren, she was imprisoned before the Prythian Fae left for Midgard, but according to Selene, she created the prison after she returned from Midgard, so several hundred years after the exodus. True. In Akamath, Rhys tells Feyre that Amren was in prison before Prythian was split into courts. True. But according to Selene, Prythian was split into courts while she was on Midgard, so before she created the prison. The Bone Carver's story also disagrees with Selene. According to the Bone Carver, he sought refuge in the prison before Prythian was split into courts, when the Forgotten Fae warrior was rounding up his siblings. But in Selene's telling, Prythian is split into courts while she is on Midgard, then she comes back and creates the prison. Amren is also sketchy about the timing of the Dread Trove. She says that at the time she was imprisoned, only the mask, the harp, and the crown remained, and that there was a lost fourth item. According to Selene, all four were in Prythian, then Thea took the harp and the horn to Midgard, then Selene comes back later with the harp. So in order for Amren to be imprisoned, when only the horn was missing, it has to be after Selene comes back with the harp. This agrees with Selene's timeline, but also means that Amren was imprisoned after the Exodus, not before. So I'll just say, I think the summary from Emma is awesome. Emma, you did a great job if you're listening, because I hope you are listening because you're in our Discord. So people who are in our Discord, I feel like, are generally listeners. This is awesome. I totally 100% agree. I think we learn some things here that are important. And the important things that we learn are that the people on Prythian don't necessarily know the right answers, and that Amren is kind of sketchy. So Rhys, we hear a lot of these things, like the Prythian data points, from Rhys. And Rhys just doesn't know. Like, a lot of this history is erased, and like Nesta and Asriel are learning it for the first time from Selene under the mountain. Like, Nesta even looks at Asriel and is like, does Rhys know this? And Asriel's like, no, Rhys does not know this. In fact, Rhys says things that we, having read Crescent City, know are literally impossible. So Rhys says that Amren was in prison during Fion's fall and came out when there were courts. The prison did not exist during Fion's fall. It didn't exist. So Rhys says, from what I've gleaned, she arrived during those years before Fionn and Gwydion rose and went into the prison during the Age of Legends, the time when this land was full of heroic figures who were keen to hunt down the last members of their former master's race. They feared Amren, believing her one of their enemies, and threw her into the prison. When she emerged again, she missed Fion's fall and the loss of Gwydion, and found the High Lords ruling. This is not possible because Fionn fell, then Thea ruled, then the whole exodus and disaster happened where Selene locked everybody out, and then she turned her home into the prison, and then the prison existed. So I think Selene had to have imprisoned Amren for both the things that Amren has said and the things that Selene has said to have worked. For Amren to have gone in before there were formally courts and to come out when there were high lords. I think she had to go in when Selene was doing the roundup.
I think Amren has to be lying because
Why
I
do you
think
that? I agree. Why do you think that?
there is a distinct point where this story falls apart and it all happens within House of Flame and Shadow, right? So it's not across books. It's not across universes. It is within one book. And the quote for that is she tells us that she went into the prison before there were rumors of people disappearing and migrating to another world. So the quote for that is, and this is a little long, so bear with me. So this is it then. This is Bryce talking. This is where we, the Midgard Fae, originated. My ancestors left this world and went to Midgard, and we forgot where we came from. Silence again. Azrael spoke in their own language, and Rhysand translated. Perhaps Rhysand had been translating for Azrael mind to mind these last few minutes. He says we have no such stories about our people migrating to another world. Yet Amren let out a small choke sound. Rhysand turned slowly, a bit incredulous. Do we? He asked smoothly. Amren picked at an invisible speck on her silk blouse. It's murky. I went in before, ... She shook her head. But when I came out, there were rumors that a great number of people had vanished as if they had never been. Some said to another world, others said they moved on to distant lands, still others said they'd been chosen by the cauldron and spirited away somewhere. So Amren is basically implying that this happens when she's in the prison. But we know that cannot be the case.
Yeah.
It is not possible. She had to have been out. The prison didn't exist.
Right. But
she lies
I couldn't
to
find
Bryce.
A time when she was lying, when I think she had to have been lying in ACOTAR.
No, I think she only starts lying when Bryce shows up. And when she realizes the Asteri are out there and she's like, oh, fuck. Yeah. Oh, fuck, oh, fuck, oh, fuck. I think that's what's happening here. But we'll get into it more, I think, outside of our gossip. But that for me is the smoking gun. She has to be lying.
Yeah. So, yes, Amren, I think, had to be, well, who knows? Like, she could have totally been lying in ACOTAR. I think it can line up that Amren was imprisoned by Selene. I agree with you that she's lying to Bryce in House of Flame
and Shadow. Yeah.
Flame and Shadow. And I read them as a bundle. I don't know what book is what. The other light bulb moment that I had, and this, I don't know if this is 100% true, but so Selene, like, basically rejects power, right? And says, I'm going to marry this High Lord. Like, I'm not going to tell you the story of how that came to be. And I'm just going to, like, try and atone for my sins. I'm going to turn my home into this prison. I'm going to round up all these. Like, I went away. I absconded. I rounded up all of these people. And then I went and wed this High Lord and created this line. Is she the ancient Fae warrior that was forgotten?
I don't think so. I don't think so because the bone carver says her bloodline is gone in Fae and only exists in humans. And her bloodline is clearly not gone in Fae. I have thought about this. Yeah. However, are we going to talk about the monster that she hunts down? That's the pet of the Asteri.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Indeed.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
No, I've gone down the is Selene the ancient Fae warrior, but I don't think it works.
Yeah. But I'm so curious who
that was. I know.
Who it was. Yeah. Okay. Moving right along. But great work, Emma. Excellent.
Derek's going to be so mad at you for hitting the mic.
Great work, Emma.
Great work, Emma.
We're big fans of your work. We agree that they don't align. I think it's largely due to Rhys not knowing what the fuck he's talking about. However, Amren also lies to Bryce's face.
She sure does. A couple times. We'll talk about it.
All right. Abby, what is Amren Maasverse edition?
I had all these preamble notes. I'm just going to get into it. I think she is probably an early prototype for an archangel. I think she is probably a much more powerful version of an archangel. We've talked about all the angel vibes. Let's get into the quotes here. I mean, I think she's probably Asteri, but there is possibility that she's Valg. So the quote is, but I wonder if my father knew, if he saw how I watched them love and hate and build, this is about the humans again, and open that rip in the world, not as punishment, but as a gift. Her eyes gleamed. For it has been a gift this time with you, with all of you, it has been a gift. Who can open a rip in the world that we know about? We have either an Asteri wayfarer, right? That's what they call them, an Asteri wayfarer. Or we have Valg, who know Wyrdmarks and can open the rips in the world. But it's very Asteri coded, right? She's got light, she's got wings, she's got a halo, right? She has all these things that are very Asteri coded. She has that crown of incandescent light when she kind of erupts into her true form. The quote for that is, "And I could have sworn I saw great burning wings, each feather a simmering ember spread wide, could have sworn a crown of incandescent light floated just above her flaming hair." Bryce obviously has her crown of stars that we've talked about. Hunt sees her have a crown of stars. We think that that came from Vesperus. Aelin has a crown of flames that comes from Mala, right? So again, we're getting this idea that if you are kind of given enough Asteri power, we think the Throne of Glass Gods are Asteri. You can kind of listen to our full season if you want more on that.
Yeah.
Mostly our Nesta episode. But like, if you are kind of created with this Asteri power, you might get a crown that reflects the power of that Asteri. In this case, maybe Mala again. We might be dealing with Mala again, right? Because there's so much fire. So like, did Mala have a male form in this version, in this world, whatever that was? I don't know for sure on that either way. And then of course she disappears in kind of this light, right? So Amren reached the final boat, the very last ship of our enemy, and was no more than a flame on the breeze. And when that ship too fell silent, there was only light, bright, clean light dancing on the waves. Bright, clean light, very Asteri coded. I definitely think that she was made, and this is how it works with the cauldron, right? She was made because she was made by the Asteri, but she was made by the Asteri on another world. So she does not have the connection to the cauldron because the cauldron is of this world that Nesta has. So even though we think that they both have Asteri power, only Nesta has that connection to the cauldron. On the other hand, just to play a little devil's advocate here, we get some Maeve vibes. Amren's power is described as dark power twice, I believe. And that is kind of the code word for Maeve's power. Also, making people see nightmares. Like we talked about this in ACOTAR section, but making people see nightmares is exactly what Maeve does to the Cater during the final battle of Kingdom of Ash, right? Like that's exactly what she does, kind of word for word. And then we get two different quotes about her dark power. And this is both of these times are tied to when she is making people see things, right? So it's kind of, they're referring to the same moment, which is this Maeve moment. So it's away from me, my power, from Cassian and Azriel, holding the river and the majority of the city away from Amren, using whatever dark power she possessed to send so many droves of them crashing down without visible injury. So that's dark power one. And then with her dark power, she had spun illusions straight into the soldiers' minds. They believed they had fallen into the Sidra and were drowning. They believed they were flying 1,000 feet above and had dived. I already read this. I don't think she's Valg. I think this points to the theory that we had last episode that the Valg and the Asteri at one point were kind of one race and that there are like bits of each in each of them, right? So I think there's still a little dark power in the Asteri potentially. I just think she is an archangel, but she is a earlier prototype of an archangel.
Yeah. I think the only I would like that, assuming that like the earlier prototypes of archangels were more powerful and they actually needed to dilute the power of the archangels because they were too dangerous to the Asteri. Because if I like compare Amren to like Micah, like Amren would kick Micah to the curb immediately. Like curb stomp Micah. No problem.
And I do think that's probably what happened, right? Because Amren left, right? Amren went away, right? So they were like, oops, that failed. Probably gave her too much power.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yes, I agree. She seems way more powerful than Micah. And maybe I'm saying archangels like kind of too loosely. I think she is an early prototype of an Asteri warrior. And they probably realized they shouldn't give them so much power because they could overthrow them, which is the same pattern that we see with the Illyrians, right? The Illyrians obviously nowhere near as powerful as Amren, but like the Malachi on Midgard seem to have less power than the Illyrians, right? Like they don't really have much magic. They can fly and they have like general weather magic, but they don't have like what the Siphons have. So I think that fits with the pattern potentially.
Yeah.
Tell me what you're thinking.
I'm just thinking like, what if we're like, this would be kind of crazy, but like, what if we're missing a layer on the Asteri side? And why the reason I say that is like, we have a Valg layer that would be like the Valg Asteri merger, because we have the kings, right? We have Erewhon, we have Orcus, we have whatever the fucking other guy's name is. Mantis. And Erewhon, Mantix, sorry, he's not important yet. The reason I bring that up is in Amren's form and also what seems to be inside her seems closer to a Rigelus than a mica or a sandriel.
A full
But I
Asteri.
agree with you that I don't think it doesn't seem like she's full Asteri. At least
Yeah.
not Asteri like bright hand style
Yeah, I agree with you.
Asteri. And so what if there's another layer, like a God the Father style layer that's like senior to the Asteri that we are missing here?
Yeah, I think that could totally like Asteri prince and princesses, basically, right? Yeah, I think that could be. Yeah, we don't really know the hierarchy of it.
Or maybe she
Had
is
a
just an
thought.
early prototype of an archangel. I don't
Had a
know.
thought. Had a thought. It's gone. She never is like seen. No. Yeah. I don't think she's full Asteri because like she's not locked in a lead sarcophagus underneath a mountain, you know?
Yeah.
Like she's kind of out and about, and we never see her consume magic. She consumes blood.
She
We never
inhales the life out of people, though.
She does inhale the life out of people, which I forgot about. But that's only that one time.
When she's in her actual form.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah.
And drinking blood is kind of like drinking life.
Yeah, it is. But she just doesn't quite. I don't have evidence for this. I don't know how to have evidence for
She doesn't
feeling.
absorb
She doesn't
other
quite
people's power.
feel. Yeah, she doesn't absorb other people's power. She doesn't feel full Asteri, but she certainly feels close to them and Asteri mate 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What did I have for this question? So I agree with you. I think she is Asteri coded and therefore kind of also Throne of Glass God coded here. Whatever relation that is. I think the only other thing that I had that would be materially different than what we talked about is the possibility of, is there another world that we're going to get knowledge of that is related to Amren? Like, is she going to introduce us to something else? Aelin fell through 2 other worlds that we didn't recognize, right? She fell through, I think there was a world of grass and a world of oceans that were not.
Yeah, there was a world of oceans. Yeah.
Yeah, that were not the 2 worlds that we know. So if Amren is being linked to our world, like that could still be, I think it could still be interesting. I think it could still work with the story. But
She could be like nothing we've seen before.
She could be nothing
always possible. Yeah.
But I do think it would be a little weird given how much the Asteri and archangels have mimicked classic Christianity already to introduce like real Old Testament style.
Yeah.
Everything else in it. So I don't know.
I agree.
Anyways, okay. All right.
All right, Ronnie. How does Amren know about Wyrdmarks?
I don't know how much context we want to get into on this one because we've already talked about a lot of it, but I'll summarize and say that there are several logosyllabic languages. Is that how you say that word? Logosyllabic?
You're the only person I've ever heard say that word. I know you've said it so many times now that I just think that is how you say it.
Hold on. Quick Google. Great. All right. There are several logosyllabic languages across the Maasverse, and we have theorized that several of them might be the same. I don't think that's unreasonable. Namely, Wyrdmarks, the Lashon HaKodesh, which is the language in the Book of Breathings that Amren is able to read, and the language of Bryce's tattoo. If you are confused by that, I would suggest you go listen to our prior episodes if you want to hear more about that. Wyrdmarks are also described in Throne of Glass as whirls and swirls. In Prythian, it seems like everything is described as whirls and swirls. No, I'm just kidding. There are tattoos everywhere that are described as whirls and swirls. Rhys's tattoos are described as whirls and swirls. The tattoo that Feyre gets on her hand as part of their first bargain has whirls and swirls. And so there's this whirls and swirls imagery, how many times can I say this in one sentence? Everywhere, that is on Illyrians, and it's like a really just like common thing in Prythian. And so if whirls and swirls are also being described as Wyrdmarks, like, are we seeing Wyrdmarks actually all over the place in Prythian? Amren seems to have Wyrdmarks in her magic. So when they are stealing the Book of Breathings, we've already talked about this quote, but I'll just recap it here quickly because I think it's important. Amren's blazing palm flattened against the door, burning, heating the metal. Whirls and whirls radiating out through it as if they were a language all her own, and then the door burst open. So like her magic seems to be Wyrdmarks. We have talked about where Amren is from, what is Amren. We've talked about the fact that she could be an angel. The Wyrdmarks could be the Lashon HaKodesh. I'll say that. Could be the Lashon HaKodesh. We've talked about the fact that she could be Asteri and we think that potentially the Wyrdmarks could be the language of the Asteri as well. Like, I think she could be from the world, apart from all of those theories, regardless, independent of them, I think she could be from the world in which the Wyrdmarks originate. I think her magic inherently has the power.
Oh, that'd be
of being similar,
intriguing.
regardless of what the Wyrdmarks actually are.
Yeah.
And that's why I think she knows about them. That's not a very long
That would be
answer,
intriguing.
but
That's not a very long answer. I'm trying to think of how to respond. I think that's a really, really great point. I took this question and kind of went in a different direction with it, which is, I think, okay. I think it's definitely confirmed that Wyrdmarks are what is coming out of Amren. If they're Wyrdmarks, though, I think we have to consider, I think we are going to get back to this point. We have to consider the fact that Amren might be lying about her entire story. Wyrdmarks can open portals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in all of in all of Akamaf and all of Aka War, what Reese is using to kind of convince Amren to read the Book of Breathings is that there might be a spell in there to help open a portal back to her homeworld. If she knows Wyrdmarks, if she can wield them, she doesn't need the Book of Breathings. She can just do it.
Yeah.
So why is she on Prithian? If she even wants to go back. I don't know that she does. She might not want to go back, but like why is like this isn't quite adding up, right? We talked about, and I'm going way off script here. I'm no longer talking about why she knows the Wyrdmarks. I like your idea. I think it's a good one. We talked about how she is probably lying about when she went into the prison. She's probably lying about how much she knows. I want to talk about the Celine line, if that's okay, because I think it's relevant. We have this line. Let me see if I can find it. All right. So we talked about how we think Amren's lying about when she went to the prison. We have this line from Celine when she is in her hologram talking to Bryce. And she says she hunted down a being of blood and rage and nightmares beneath another mountain far to the south. I will tell you, when I read this, I at first thought we were definitely talking about the bone carver. I don't know that I still think that. I think this might be Amren. So the quote is, beneath another mountain far to the south, I'm thinking under the mountain, thinking that's the mountain, I found a being of blood and rage and nightmares. Once a pet of the Asteri, it had long been in hiding, feeding off the unwitting. With the dagger and my power, I laid a trap for it. And when it came sniffing, I dragged it back here, locked it in one of the cells, warded the door. I said I thought this was a bone carver. I did. However, we get blood and rage and nightmares. Amren drinks blood. Amren can spin in nightmares. The only other character this really fits is Briaxis, but Briaxis is not in the prison, right?
Yeah.
If this is about Amren, then she is being described as a pet of the Asteri.
Yeah.
Which is very different than what we've been led to believe thus far about her role in all this, right? Okay. So here's where things gets like really fucking weird. There's a line that Bryce has in House of Flame and Shadow where Bryce is talking about the history of Midgard. She says, and this is about the Asteri, they arrived in my world 15,000 years ago. No one knows from where. What do you mean by arrived? Rand asked. I have no idea how they first got to Midgard. The history they spun was that they were liberators, enlighteners. According to them, they found Midgard a little more than a backwater planet occupied by non-magical humans and animals. The Asteri chose it as the place to begin creating a perfect empire, and creatures and races from other worlds soon flocked to it through a giant rip between worlds called the Northern Rift, which now only opens to hell, but used to be open to anywhere. Amren pushed. A rip. How does that happen? Beats me, Bryce said. No one's ever figured out how it's even possible, why it's at that spot in Midgard and not others. Why is Amren, who came to this world through a rip in the universe, asking how a rip in the world is possible? She fucking knows how it's possible. She went through one. So why is she asking this question? Why is she asking how to open a rip, right? I did not get deep into this for this episode, and maybe I should have, but I think we might cover it more when we cover Crescent City. I was just going to say, I haven't found this, and this is just kind of a sidebar. I know you guys are always like, oh, Sarah J. Maas said this, Sarah J. Maas said that. It's actually really fucking hard to find what she actually said because TikTok is such an echo chamber, and like when you Google Sarah J. Maas interview, you just get video reactions of it. So I don't know that she said this for sure. However, there is a rumor that Sarah J. Maas had said a member of the inner circle is going to betray the inner circle. Again, I don't know if she actually said that. My money, if that happens, is on Amren. My money is on Amren, and that she might actually still have this connection to the Asteri, whatever it is. And that she might open a rip in the world and let them back in if she is this pet of the Asteri, right?
Yeah.
Like if she has been this whole time. And again, I don't think her actions in ACOTAR match that, but she acts
Right.
really fucking weird in House of Flame and Shadow,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I agree. I think
Yeah.
like most of her deception takes place in House of Flame and Shadow. And there was one other, so back to your, so I also had, and I had this in What is Amren, but I had the monster under the mountain that Celine hunted down. I also thought like, could that be Amren? I think Celine imprisoned her. We have her also described as rage when she is unleashed. So that would,
Oh, yeah.
so we've got a
perfect.
match for blood, we've got a match for rage, and we've got a match for nightmares. So she could
Right.
totally be, that could be her. So maybe she is that first monster. She also lies. So I lied, I guess. I think she does lie in ACOTAR. I think she lies about the origin of the Star Sword. Amren says
Oh, yeah.
that it was dipped into the cauldron by High Priestess Oleana, whoever the fuck that is. In Celine's memory, we see Fionn pull it out of the cauldron. So why is Amren concealing Fionn and saying like High Priestess Oleana dipped the Star Sword, dipped Gwydion into the cauldron?
Well,
Like why is she lying?
What's interesting is if she is the pet, if she is the Asteri pet that Celine hunted down, Celine hunted her down with the dagger. And we know that the shadow creatures don't like Amren, right?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know.
Yeah. And if the dagger is tied to Hell and Hell and Asteri have beef, then that would work.
That would work. Yeah. I think we'll talk about it more in our Crescent City coverage when we do that, probably. But
I guess the only reason she would pretend not to understand rips in front of Bryce would be to like suss out what exactly Bryce knows and be able to report back. Because like everyone else in that room
knows
that she understood how a rip in the world would occur.
Right.
And also Bryce seemed to have just come from another world. So like why the fuck would Bryce not know?
Right. But she literally says, how do you create a rip in the world? How would I do that? If one of us wanted to do that, like how would we do that? You know?
Yeah.
Because Wyrdmarks only open temporary portals. It's a throne of glass thing.
Yeah.
So yes, in conclusion, my thinking is if Amren does know Wyrdmarks, she has potentially been deceiving Rhys this whole time, because she could always go home herself. Maybe. I don't know. And she might be a pet of the Asteri. So we're getting conflicting information on Amren when you look at the whole Maasverse. And she's definitely lying about when she went into the prison.
Yeah.
Because that is only in House of Flame and Shadow. Again, that is not across the whole Maasverse. That is only in that book. And the timeline doesn't work out. So
I just feel compelled to say, for people who are going to come at us and say that we're being crazy, I think it's also fair to say that she might know about Wyrdmarks, but not know the exact Wyrdmark required to open it. Maybe she's reading the Book of Breathings to figure out what Wyrdmark she needs to open a portal. Sure. Totally possible.
Totally possible. It's less about the Wyrdmarks. It's more about how she acts in Flame and Shadow.
Yeah. Yes. More about how she acts in Flame and Shadow. Yep. Okay. All right. Precog corner.
Do you have another one?
I have like a throwaway one, but my main one is Amren Lucifer, and we already got to all of my supporting Amren doing fishy shit. So I can do my throwaway, but you should go first.
Okay. All right. Mine actually kind of builds on yours from last week about Eris and was that last week or was that 2 weeks ago? I don't remember the release order. But about Eris and the Autumn King possibly being in communication. We know that communication between Midgard and the Fae homeworld is possible because Peleus and Rigilus do it in Crescent City, right? So the quote for that, or like basically the quote for that is what the explanation we get is Peleus told her, this is when Thea is looking for another world because she wants both of her daughters to be able to rule their own worlds. Peleus found a planet for her. Peleus told her it was a world that the Daglan had long coveted but had not had a chance to conquer. An empty world, but one of plenty. She had no way of knowing that he had spent our era of peace learning ancient summoning magic and searching the cosmos for whatever remained of the Daglan on other worlds, right? So there is like this idea of ancient summoning magic, and Peleus does talk to Rigilus, and Rigilus is on Midgard and Peleus is on Prythian at this point in time. Here's my follow-up. What if it's not Eris and Einar talking, Eris and the Autumn King talking? What if it's Beren and the Autumn King talking, right? Here's why I think that might be true. What we are told about the Forest House, which is the seat of power at the Autumn Court, is that it goes deep underground. The Forest House was a sprawling complex, Lucian informed me, during the few times we risked or bothered to speak to each other. It had been built in and around the trees and rocks, and only its uppermost levels were visible above the ground. Below, it tunneled a few levels into the stone, but its sprawl generated its size. You might walk from one end of the house to another, and it would take you half the morning. There were layers and circles of sentries ringing it in the trees on the ground atop the moss-coated shingles and stones of the house itself. So we have a well-guarded, sprawling complex that goes underground. We are also told that there are Asteri archives somewhere in this world. We are told that by Bryce, right? So Bryce's gut churned. The Asteri must have kept archives and records on this world too, exactly like the room Bryce had found in the palace, full of notes on conquered planets. Dusk, they labeled the room as if out of all of the worlds mentioned within, this world remained their focus, this place. Why is Autumn Court the only one who agrees to go with Thea, right? Why is Autumn Court the only one out of everyone on Prithian who agrees to go with Thea? Is it because they have the Asteri archives?
Yeah.
And they know kind of what's up, and they also want their own worlds to conquer, and they think that this is the way to do it. And has Baron found those archives, maybe had those archives the whole time?
Yeah.
And he's using this summoning magic to talk to the Autumn King. I don't know.
I like it because I think it's basically the flip of... So I think a popular opinion in the fandom is that because Rhys has this orrery and Eris knows things that he's not supposed to know, and Rhys and Eris have this kind of like alliance and a bargain that we don't understand, that they're maybe like conspiring about other worlds, and that Eris is maybe talking to Einar because Eris is in the Autumn Court. But if Baron is talking to Einar and Baron is trying to conspire to conquer other worlds or to like do sketchy shit with other worlds, and Eris and Rhys, like Rhys has, I'm gonna get canceled for this, Rhys doesn't want to be High King. Like he has exemplified nothing but I just want to be with my kingdom, be with my friends, be with my mate. Like I just want to be here. What if he and Eris understand what Baron is doing and are trying to basically work to counter it? That would make it would be more consistent with Baron's sketchiness and with why Eris would be so set on Baron not continuing to be High Lord.
Yeah. I think that totally agrees. And I did think about, well, what about the library? Obviously, that goes deep underground and there's like a lot of stuff there. But there are so many priestesses working in that library, right? Like, I think unless Rhys is keeping like huge secrets, which he might be, like, I think the library is a pretty well explored place within this ecosystem, and Autumn and the forest house is not. And we have this throwaway line about the forest house, right? And like why would it matter that the forest house goes underground, right? Why is that important? Why would she put that detail in there? Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking, that Baron is talking to the Autumn King and that Eris knows, but like, and is probably feeding that information to Rhys, right? Because like Rhys also, Cassian does not understand why Rhys feels that Eris is so important, right? Like he doesn't understand why he's allying with Eris, why he needs to keep him like in play. If it's because Eris is his line to Midgard, basically, I think that kind of makes sense. Again, precog theory, just kind of out there, kind of crazy. But
yeah, I like it. All right. My throwaway precog. And the reason I'm calling it literally throwaway, because you have to actually throw away everything we just talked about. Like throw it out the window and pretend that wasn't what we decided that Amren was. What if Amren is Deanna? Her eyes are the one part of the containment spell that wasn't quite right. You called out that Deanna has this like silver flames power. Amren's eyes glow with this silver power. She mentors Nesta. She says we're the same, you and I. Nesta, we think, has the power of Deanna. And we haven't talked about this in too much detail yet, but I think Aelin probably sent the gods to hell, not killed them. Aelin sent the gods to literally a hell realm. So the quote for that is, the gods began shouting, running towards her, as Aelin ripped open a hole in their sky, right into a world she had only seen once, had accidentally opened a portal into one night in a stone castle. Distant baying howls cracked from the bleak gray expanse, a portal into a hell realm, a door now thrown open. Aelin was still smiling when she closed the archway into the gods' world and left them to it, the sounds of their outraged, frightened screams ringing out. So I think in Throne of Glass they like say that they killed the gods. I don't think they killed the gods. I think they just banished them to another realm. So like, could Amren be Deanna? Would be crazy.
My only counter to that is that she says we're not the same to Nesta. She says you're the same, you and I, but then she says not in the power that like prowls, not in the thing that prowls beneath our skin.
I mean, objectively, there's a lot of other reasons that that's not the case. But I was like, what else could Amren be that would be crazy?
Sending the gods to hell is such an interesting idea, and we need to think about it in terms of our big universe theories. I think you are right, but I don't know that we need to do that this season. We might do that.
I actually think it's a separate, I think it's part of our Throne of Glass
Throne of
season,
Glass.
probably, or maybe
I
our
agree.
Crescent City season. But I
Yeah.
think it's how the Asteri got to hell, probably.
Yeah. I mean, I think that makes sense. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. What are you reading?
Kingdom of Ash. What are you reading?
I'm reading House of Flame and Shadow, but wait, no, I'm reading House of Sky and Breath. I don't know. I'm reading the Crescent City bundle. I literally don't know what book is what. But I did read One Dark Window, and I finished it.
Oh,
The
nice.
first book
How was
of the
it?
Shepherd King duology. It was good. I really liked it. I can't really tell you how I actually felt about it without giving too much away. I will say, like, I don't think it's the book you're looking for right now, because it is like a narrow, obviously it's a duology, so the world isn't overly large or complex, but it's also not particularly spicy. It's actually barely anything. And I would say it's more just like a good fantasy story, but it's written obviously pretty standalone. And it's not like a smutty, mindless read. It's not. That's
and
not what
for
it
our
is.
listeners, what Ronnie is referring to is that last night on Instagram, I put out a plea because I was like, oh my God, like I'm about to finish Kingdom of Ash. I need something like fun and spicy, and then I don't have to think about it all. So I have put out a plea. I've gotten some good answers. Maybe I'll share them on Instagram. Like I was like, anything that is spicy but mindless, which I'm sure there are a lot of books that fit in that category.
Yeah, I think that's like actually a proper genre, unlike Romantasy, which seems to just be what they do to fantasy with romance that was written by a woman.
Yeah. So soon I will hopefully be onto a mindless read, and then I'm gonna have to reread Quicksilver because it turns out I remember fuck all about Quicksilver.
I know. I do think rereading Quicksilver is in my very near future.
Yeah. Our Discord was we've created a channel on our Discord to talk about Quicksilver, and they're like, oh my God, like, and what's up with the witches? And I was like, there are witches in this book. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. I don't remember like the names of things, which I feel like is going to be a problem. So
no, I'm gonna have to read it. But cool.
Yep. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks for listening. We are on social media. We're on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, as Dragons in the Details Pod is our handle. We also have a Discord. It's linked in the bio of all of those social media profiles, but it is Dragons in the Details server, Dragons in the Details Pod server.
I think it's Pod. Nope, it's Dragons in the Details server. I think I say that wrong every episode.
Yeah, I think I actually notice it every time, but then I'm convinced that I'm wrong and you're right.
No.
So I'm like, whatever. We have a website, dragonsinthedetails.com. We have a contact form on that website if you want to give us feedback, ideas, theories, you're welcome to. We also still have that email, dragonsinthedetailspod@gmail.com. If you want to email us, you're always welcome to. And like, rate, subscribe. Helps us out a lot. We're a small podcast, but we are trying to grow. And we love you. Thanks for listening.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.